Please won't you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts together find their way into the heart of God this morning. Amen. So this week, as I mentioned in my announcement, I met with 14 of you at Meadowbrook Orchards for coffee with the pastor on the back patio. And we got to talking about how it was with our spirits. That's kind of just what I ask. How is it with your spirit? And we go around and we talk, trying to answer that question. And one of the participants said something like this: I haven't really come to outdoor church yet, but I don't know why, really. Before the pandemic, I was really good at juggling balls in the air, she said. And in March, I was just forced to drop them all. And now they are all lying on the floor, and I can't find the energy to pick a single one of them back up. Every day bleeds into the next, so Sunday is no different than, a random Tuesday, and my feet feel like they're weighted to the bed, and when I get out of the bed, they are weighted to the floor, and I have given up all of the activities that keep me grounded, that help me mark time. It turns out, she said, that I'm good at juggling, but I'm not so good at picking the balls back up after they have fallen. Does anybody resonate with this? Oh boy, I did. That's why I thought I'd tell you about it. Some of the other participants reported feeling similarly exhausted and generally sad. And many reported being without physical contact with their family and their community of faith and their regular trips to the gym or to the coffee shop or to school. From our church leaders, I hear over and over again about decision fatigue. Making choices on behalf of reopening our building is especially overwhelming and traumatizing. I don't want to be trusted with this responsibility, one of our leaders told me. It is too much. I am out of my depth. She said, stop saying we can do hard things. We are already doing hard things, and we can't do any more. We are experiencing a collective crash, right? Of epic proportions. There are a lot of people who thrive in the immediate high-stress emergency situation that we experienced this spring. Raise your hand if you thrive in immediate emergency situations. Not all of you will say yes, but a lot of you will. Yes. Right. I do too. I love that high-stress adrenaline rush, right? So we had that this spring, and this church as a whole was like that. At the beginning of this crisis, we had the superhero energy that comes from adrenaline. We got a big, beautiful banner. John got this for us that announced, the church has left the building, almost proudly, right? We've gone out to the world. And the rallying cry at that time was physical distancing and social revolution, right? We weren't at all too ambitious, were we? And people rushed to immediately get set up for Facebook Live and to procure new technology for worship and fellowship and to call every parishioner on our 500-person call list to check in weekly, right? And to start up a weekly meals program and to drop off food and gifts and groceries for elders to love bomb your pastor's house. Remember that? And we were writing letters, and we were baking bread, and we were planning car parades for first responders. It was exhilarating, wasn't it? Remember those days? They seem like so long ago. And now we've hit the 6-month mark, and this pandemic is just plain tiring. I'll speak for myself here and not for you. It's always dangerous to speak for you. It is hard for me to get out of bed in the morning, much less make breakfast, get the kids set up for virtual school. much less, answer emails. Writing sermons has become nearly impossible for me. I sit down to write and the well is dry, do you know? I can't concentrate. I can't think deep thoughts or find inspiration. There's no adrenaline left to bring hope. And I know that I'm not alone. At church, I can't get anyone to organize the call list anymore, not to save my life, or set up for outdoor worship, or plan new crisis response ministries like our virtual school center, right? Much less. Our leaders are stressed and scared and overwhelmed just like I am. And the new normal is indefinite uncertainty laced with existential ennui, yes? Yes? We can do hard things, but when every small thing is hard to do, it is exhausting. I read an article by Tara Hale last month called, the name of the article is enough, right? It's called "Our Surge Capacity is Depleted. It's Why You Feel Awful." Our surge capacity is depleted. It's why you feel awful. Surge capacity, she says, is a collection of adaptive systems, mental and physical, that humans draw on for short-term survival, right, in acutely stressful situations. Like if you're a nurse or a, crisis response person or a firefighter or something, like you have that in spades, right? And we get it in natural disasters, right? But natural disasters, she says, occur over a short period. Even if recovery is long, she says, right? But pandemics are different. The disaster itself stretches on indefinitely. And she quotes Ann Matson, a developmental psychologist, who says, "This unprecedented disaster is different from a hurricane or a tornado where you can look outside and see the damage. The destruction is, for most people, invisible and ongoing." The destruction for most people is invisible and ongoing. So we can look inside and see the damage. Our mental and spiritual health is suffering. We can see that inside. And so expecting ourselves to remake Earth as it is in heaven right now, when we are focused primarily on psychic survival, is maybe asking too much. Or at least for some of us anyway. You cannot produce water from a rock unless you have God's help. So we are still following the Israelites on their long journey through the desert. The wilderness narratives all take place on the journey from Egypt to Sinai, and they're rather similar, right? I mean, this is the third week that we've been talking about this wilderness journey. And they are similar in that they all involve conflicts around resource scarcity. God keeps promising the Israelites that where God leads, God provides. And the Israelites keep forgetting that promise. God makes a way out of no way. God uses humans to do it. And the Israelites keep forgetting, or they keep losing trust, or whatever it is. They don't have much faith in that. So 2 weeks ago, God had Moses part the Red Sea so they could walk on dry land to freedom. And last week, when the Israelites complained of hunger, God heard them and answered with manna falling from the heavens. And this week, the Israelites have reached the 6-month mark, right, on their long trip. And their surge capacity is depleted. Whatever adrenaline rush they had back when they were crossing the Red Sea is now gone. This disaster is stretching out indefinitely for them, and their leaders don't seem to know when they will reach the promised land. And this week they stopped to camp in a place called Rephidim. And Rephidim is a place in the middle of nowhere that isn't found on any map, wasn't then and isn't now. The only thing that we really know about Rephidim from the scriptures is that it is a dry and barren desert place. It cannot sustain life. I picture a scene out of Star Wars, right? with Princess Leia and Han Solo and R2-D2 and what is it, C-3PO? Yeah, got it. I'm not like a huge Star Wars fan, but I watched them in the 80s. You remember that desert scene was just like sand and dunes and like blowing sand, and they're just, like walking along the desert. I also always picture Spaceballs, which I love much better than Star Wars. So just thumbs up for those of you who love Spaceballs. Yes. Their search capacity was depleted too. So the Israelites are thirsty because it is dry. Even in this place where they have stopped to rest, there is no way to recharge. There is no water, only blowing hot, dry sand. And they do not think that they can keep going. The Israelites still do not trust in God's presence. It doesn't matter that God has made a way for them out of no way, or that God keeps showing up to provide sustenance for the journey. They are lost. They are stressed. Nothing makes sense anymore. They cannot see the way forward. It's just sand dunes for days. The Israelites thirst, so they do not believe. And as usual, it is Moses who gets the blame. Why have you brought us out of Egypt only to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst? They grumble. And Moses, I think, is tired too, because he too is only human. The truth is, Moses was a reluctant leader to begin with. He wasn't sure he could do hard things either. When God called to him from a burning bush and told him that he was to lead the Israelites to freedom, Moses tells God that he is out of his depth. Do you remember this in the burning bush? He says, I stutter. Can't you ask someone else, like someone more qualified? And God's response is just to send him a friend named Aaron to help. And feeling he has no choice, Moses answers the call, but I think he regrets it the entire time, and especially today. These people are going to stone me to death, he says to God. They feel out of control and powerless, and they are looking for someone to blame. What shall I even do with these people? I can't even, right? And God says to Moses, go on ahead to Mount Horeb. I will go ahead, and I will be there with you. Take your staff and strike the rock, and water will come out of it. And Moses does. And living water, sure enough, flows from the rock, and the Israelites drink. Where God leads, God provides. It turns out you can produce water from a rock, even with very human leaders who have no idea what they are doing. God will make a way out of no way. God will use even reluctant humans to do it. And beloved, we are in a dry, hot mess place right now, and our surge capacity is depleted. We thirst. God, do we thirst? But we still have each other, and we still have God. And we need to start finding our energy from unexpected sources. Even now, especially now. So Tara Hale recommends these steps. She says, first, accept that life is different right now. Like the Israelites who had to adjust to a new normal, accepting doesn't mean giving up. It just means accepting that we are in the wilderness and we can't change that fact. And if we accept that, we can use our energy to focus on other life-giving things. God gives us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and what? The wisdom to know the difference. She says, expect less of yourself. Can we do that, friends? Can Americans even do that? Are we capable? Expect less of yourself. Like Moses, we are called by love to lead, but we are not God. We have to expect less of ourselves, not more. And we have to replenish more. So start by admitting that you are only human. If you are tired, nap. If you are thirsty, drink. Make room for play. Ask yourself, where do I get my energy? So many of our systems for replenishment are unavailable and we are grieving. So forgive yourself and others for not being able to work or think the same way that we did before the pandemic, okay? And if in doubt, pray. Help is maybe the oldest and best form of prayer that there still is. 3, respect the different aspects of grief. Like the Israelites who lose a way of life that was the only one they knew, we are facing a series of ambiguous losses. From big losses like the deaths of loved ones or gainful employment to losses of rites of passage that mark time, right? Like weddings and baby showers and the loss of just our regular haunts like the church or the gym and the coffee shops and the schools. And it's a cascading and ambiguous time of grief, right? So the dehumanizing division in this country on top of it all is devastating in addition as we near the November election. It is all worthy of grieving. And so don't shame yourself by saying that my loss is not as bad as other people's losses. Let yourself just grieve it all. Because empathy for yourself begets empathy for others. It is infinite, just like God's love. So 4, I think this is 4, experiment with both and thinking, she says. Like the Israelites, we are prone to either or thinking. Either we have water to drink or we go back to Egypt, right? How we frame reality helps us cope with it. So try dealing in complexity rather than binary thinking. This is terrible and many people have died and families are spending more quality time together, right? We don't know when this will end, and we have learned so much about what is essential and what is inessential in our lives. You get the idea. Both and. 5, look for activities old and new that continue to fulfill you. So like the Israelites, if we focus on resource scarcity too much, we miss the many opportunities we have for joy. So I'm just going to tell you right now, stop doom scrolling on social media. Turn off your TV. Turn it all off. Read for pleasure. Get a People magazine. Take walks in the radiant New England fall. Drink hot apple cider. Paint, draw, sing, play, pray, whatever it is you do. Focus on your pleasure. It's okay to have pleasure, even when people are suffering. 6, focus on maintaining and strengthening important relationships. Social support remains the number one tool of survival. Don't be like the Israelites and start quarreling with each other and your leaders. Division is literally killing us. If you care about this country, rehumanize the people in your community. Thank a teacher. Cook dinner for a single parent. Rally for Black lives. Send cookies to the local police station. All of that, right? Don't choose which lives matter more to you. Rehumanize everyone. You don't have to choose. Show up even when you don't want to. To church, to Zoom calls with friends and family, to therapy appointments most of all, to coffee dates. Do not social distance yourself out of flesh and blood relationship. When 2 or more are gathered in God's name, their God is. Their love is. I don't even know what number I'm on, but this is the last one. Begin slowly building your resilience bank account. Like the Israelites, if you are thirsty, demand water, sleep, eat well, exercise, meditate, and pray. Practice self-compassion, gratitude, connection, and saying no, right? It's one of the best things you can do for yourself is to say no, so you can say yes to something else. Beloved, our surge capacity is depleted, and that's okay. That's normal. We are only human and doing the best that we can. So rest, recharge, drink water. Do not give up hope. Do not give up on each other, because where God leads, God provides. Amen.